A noticeable shift in the Arizona housing market. Prices are starting to drop and inventory is starting to go up. But the main question, is this something just temporary?
The cameras flashed as Governor Katie Hobbs stepped up to the podium, her face tight, voice trembling, the weight of Arizona's housing collapse written all over her expression. Behind her, charts showed plummeting condo prices, abandoned projects, and half-built towers baking under the southern sun. Reporters shouted questions about foreclosures, layoffs, and investors fleeing the state. But the governor's patience snapped. Live, on air. In that moment, it wasn't just a political crisis anymore. It was personal, raw, and real. The question everyone's asking now is simple. How did Arizona's dream turn into such a disaster? The Arizona dream. For years, Arizona was the escape plan for millions of Americans tired of drowning in rent or taxes somewhere else. It was the land of sunshine, swimming pools, and second chances. The affordable frontier. If you couldn't afford a house in California or New York, Arizona was the place where you could finally breathe. People used to say, if you can't buy in LA, move to Phoenix. And they did. By the thousands. Families sold cramped apartments in Los Angeles or pricey condos in San Diego and found themselves standing in front of sprawling homes with desert views, double garages, and backyards big enough for barbecues. It was the kind of fresh start people dreamed about. Arizona had everything the American dream promised. Open land, booming cities, and prices that didn't make your eyes water. You could raise a family, send your kids to decent schools, and actually own something. For retirees, it was paradise. For young couples, it was opportunity. For investors, it was gold. Everyone wanted a piece of it. The Phoenix suburbs exploded, Tucson filled with new developments, and desert highways turned into bustling commuter routes. It was wild. Cranes on every corner, billboards screaming, new homes starting at $199,000. And everyone convinced the good times would last forever. People from California, New York, Washington, even Chicago packed up and headed to the desert. They bragged about how much further their money went. Bigger houses, lower property taxes, no state income tax headaches like back home. To them, Arizona was the antidote to big city exhaustion. It was sunshine and savings all in one. The local joke was that you could sell a tiny home in San Francisco and buy a mansion in Scottsdale with cash left for a new Tesla. For a long time, that wasn't even an exaggeration. But lately, the dream is starting to look more like a mirage. Home prices have jumped so high that even lifelong residents can't afford to buy where they grew up. The median home in Arizona sits at over $422,000, a number that would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. That means a basic 20% down payment costs around $84,000, and that's before you even touch closing costs or property taxes. For teachers, nurses, and small business owners, that's just impossible. The same people who once fled expensive states are now facing the same nightmare, just under a different sky. And the irony is painful. California families once running from unaffordability helped drive up prices in Arizona too. As more outsiders came in, developers couldn't build fast enough, and locals got priced out of their own neighborhoods. What was once a middle-class paradise is slowly becoming another playground for investors and cash buyers. The kind of people who used to dream of white picket fences are now stuck scrolling through Zillow, realizing they've been priced out of their own dream. It's hard not to feel like something's been stolen. Arizona was supposed to be the exception, the state that didn't lose its soul to greed or overdevelopment. But the affordable frontier is disappearing, and with it, the promise that you could still make it if you worked hard. The condos that used to welcome first-time buyers are sitting empty or owned by out-of-state investors flipping them for profit. Ordinary families are being left behind, watching as the desert dream turns into yet another story of wealth, speculation, and political inaction. The Arizona dream was built on hope, on the idea that there was still a corner of America where regular people could win. But lately, that hope feels like it's evaporating in the desert heat, one overpriced condo at a time. The breaking point. The cracks in Arizona's housing dream didn't appear overnight. They crept in quietly, one price hike and one interest rate bump at a time. What started as a booming success story turned into a slow-motion collapse. And by the time most people realized what was happening, the market was already gasping for air. In southern Arizona especially, condos that once sold in bidding wars are now sitting on the market for months. Real estate agents who used to juggle 10 offers in a weekend are lucky to get one phone call. The so-called Arizona gold rush has officially hit its breaking point. You can almost feel the shift in the air. Drive through downtown Tucson or the outer edges of Mesa, and you'll see the signs, literally. For sale, price reduced, and owner desperate to sell. It's eerie. These were once the same neighborhoods that couldn't keep up with demand. Now builders have stopped mid-project, investors are backing out, and condos that were supposed to represent stability are turning into financial quicksand. It's not just a market dip, it's a meltdown. The governor's office is feeling the heat too. When the market crashes, people don't blame mortgage rates, they blame leadership. And right now, the pressure on Arizona's Governor Katie Hobbs is reaching a boiling point. She's juggling controversies, investigations, and a furious public watching their property values collapse. Critics say she's failed to address the housing shortage, while supporters claim she inherited a system already rigged against ordinary families. Either way, she's at the center of a crisis that could define her political legacy. And it's not looking good. Part of the chaos comes down to simple math. Mortgage rates hovering around 7% have made buying nearly impossible for anyone without deep pockets. What used to buy a $400,000 home now barely covers $250,000. Families who stretch their budgets thinking home prices would keep rising are watching their dreams sink in real time. For many, the condo they bought during the boom is worth less today than what they owe on it. Banks are getting nervous, developers are going quiet, and homeowners are panicking. And the investors, they're vanishing. Those big cash buyers from California and New York who once flooded the Arizona market are pulling out. Some condos in Phoenix and Tucson, especially luxury ones, sit dark at night, half sold and half abandoned. It's a haunting sight, glass towers glowing faintly over empty streets. These ghost condos are the perfect symbol of what went wrong. The state chased short-term profits and forgot about the long-term health of its housing ecosystem. Meanwhile, ordinary people, the teachers, small business owners, nurses, are paying the price. They're renting longer, saving less, and watching their slice of the American dream slip further away. Renters are stuck paying sky-high prices, and those lucky enough to own are terrified of losing what little equity they have left. The fear is contagious. Nobody wants to buy because they're waiting for prices to fall, and nobody wants to sell because they can't afford to buy again. The whole system is frozen. It's a vicious cycle that's hitting southern Arizona the hardest. Cities like Tucson and Sierra Vista were supposed to be the affordable refuge, but even there, the condo collapse has wrecked confidence. The dream that Arizona would always be a safe bet, a place where the middle class could build, is gone. What's left is uncertainty, finger-pointing, and a governor staring down the worst housing crisis her state has seen in decades. And for many Arizonans, the question has become painfully simple. How much further can this fall go before there's nothing left to lose? The blame game. When the market started cracking, the finger-pointing began almost instantly. Politicians, developers, and homeowners all had someone to blame, but the loudest accusations landed right at the governor's doorstep. Governor Katie Hobbs has faced scandals before, but this one feels different. Personal, chaotic, and impossible to spin. Every press conference looks more tense, every statement more defensive. She's accused of being out of touch, of letting the housing market implode while ordinary Arizonans drown under impossible mortgage payments and rent spikes. The pressure is intense, and her frustration is starting to show. Behind closed doors, insiders say the governor has lost her cool more than once. Staffers describe shouting matches, frantic phone calls, and strategy sessions that go nowhere. She's caught between angry voters demanding immediate relief and developers furious over state restrictions that limit new construction. Critics claim her administration's moratoriums and delays on housing permits, especially in fast-growing areas of southern Arizona, have only made things worse. What was meant to protect groundwater and infrastructure has backfired spectacularly, choking the very supply the market desperately needs. The optics couldn't be worse. While construction sites sit half-finished and condos remain empty, the governor's political opponents are capitalizing on the chaos. Conservative lawmakers accuse her of overreach, calling her actions an illegal power grab that's stifling Arizona's economy. Local media outlets are running headlines about the Hobbs housing disaster, complete with photos of abandoned condo towers baking under the desert sun. Even some of her allies are backing away, worried that the crisis will stain their own campaigns. But it's not just politics. It's personal for thousands of Arizonans who feel betrayed. The same government that once promised opportunity now feels like it's turned its back on them. Middle-class families who believed in the Arizona dream, people who worked hard, saved carefully, and bought condos believing they'd appreciate, are watching their investments crumble. Their frustration is boiling into rage. Town halls are overflowing, protests are popping up, and online forums are filled with angry homeowners demanding accountability. Developers, too, are fuming. They argue that years of red tape, zoning resistance, and environmental restrictions have strangled growth. Many claim they tried to warn state leaders that the crisis was coming, but nobody listened. Instead of fast-tracking permits or expanding infrastructure, they say the government hesitated and politicized every decision. The result? A housing market that's collapsed under its own weight. Meanwhile, renters are no better off. As condo prices fall, rental rates stay high. Landlords are holding firm, knowing supply is still tight. It's a cruel twist, a crash that somehow manages to hurt both buyers and renters at the same time. Families are stuck in limbo, unable to buy but too squeezed to rent comfortably. And through it all, the governor's face has become the symbol of Arizona's unraveling dream. The situation has become more than a policy failure. It's a public spectacle. Political rivals are using the meltdown to paint her as unstable and incapable of handling pressure. Her emotional outbursts and visibly shaken demeanor during press conferences have only fueled that narrative. To many Arizonans, it feels like watching a slow-motion breakdown, not just of the housing market, but of leadership itself. The Arizona dream isn't just slipping away, it's collapsing on live television, and everyone's watching the fallout. The fallout. When a housing market crashes, the damage doesn't stay confined to numbers and property charts. It spreads like wildfire. In southern Arizona, the collapse has hit every layer of the economy. Construction crews have been laid off mid-project, their heavy machinery collecting dust under the sun. Interior designers, landscapers, and small contractors who once thrived during the condo boom are scrambling to stay afloat. Local cafes that served workers at nearby building sites are closing early. The ripple effect is brutal. The kind of everyday people who kept the housing engine running, plumbers, electricians, appraisers, are watching their livelihoods vanish right along with the condo market. And then there's the human side. Families who thought they were finally secure are facing foreclosure notices. Some bought condos at peak prices, believing the market would never cool, only to discover their homes are worth less than their loans. The equity they built, gone. Others are stuck in units they can't sell, paying high interest on properties nobody wants. You can hear the panic in their voices when they talk about it. That raw disbelief that the dream they worked for is dissolving in front of them. For renters, it's no better. Landlords who lost money are hiking rents to recover, leaving tenants with impossible bills. It's chaos, and nobody's quite sure how to stop it. The political tension around all this has reached fever pitch. The governor's office is in constant damage control mode, issuing press releases about long-term solutions and strategic reviews. But those phrases don't comfort people facing eviction. Meanwhile, legislators are exploiting the crisis, calling for hearings, investigations, and policy overhauls. Some want to strip the state of certain housing controls altogether, accusing the administration of micromanaging growth to death. The political storm is as fierce as the economic one, and both are tearing through Arizona's reputation as a stable, growing state. Investors are also retreating, which only deepens the pain. Foreign buyers from Canada and Asia, who once poured money into Arizona's luxury condos, are quietly backing out. They've seen this movie before. Prices fall, confidence evaporates, and recovery takes years. The glittering towers in places like Phoenix and Tucson that once symbolized success have turned into haunting reminders of misplaced optimism. Whole sections of these developments sit empty, the lights off, the air still. You drive by at night and realize, this isn't the Arizona that people dreamed about. But perhaps the most devastating consequence is psychological. Arizona was always sold as the place where the middle class could still win, where the dream of owning a home wasn't reserved for the rich. That belief gave people hope. It made them feel like the system still worked if they worked hard enough. Now that illusion is cracking. When teachers, police officers, and nurses can't afford to buy homes in their own cities, something deeper breaks. The social fabric starts to unravel. People begin to lose faith, not just in the housing market, but in leadership, in fairness, in the promise that effort pays off. Economists warn that recovery could take years unless bold action is taken. More construction, fewer restrictions, and real support for middle-class buyers. But confidence doesn't rebuild easily. The Arizona dream that once drew so many here is hanging by a thread. What was once the symbol of stability has turned into a cautionary tale about greed, delay, and denial. And as the sun sets over those empty condo towers, one truth remains. A dream built on sand can only stand for so long before it all comes crashing down. The path to redemption. Every crash comes with its wake-up call, and Arizona's has been deafening. The condo collapse exposed everything leaders ignored for years, from zoning gridlock to political hesitation and unchecked speculation. The question isn't just how to rebuild the housing market, but whether Arizona can rebuild trust. People are angry, and they have every right to be. They were promised opportunity, but what they got was a marketplace rigged against them. The challenge now is whether the state can learn from this disaster before the next wave of families packs up and leaves. Fixing the mess won't happen overnight, but it starts with something simple: courage. Arizona's leaders have to face the uncomfortable truth that their policies, or lack of them, helped create this crisis. For decades, zoning laws have acted like concrete walls around certain neighborhoods, making it nearly impossible to build affordable housing. The fear of overcrowding, traffic, and change kept developments frozen in time. That might have protected property values in the short run, but in the long run, it priced ordinary people out. If the state wants redemption, it has to break that cycle. Open up more land for construction, allow mixed-use developments, and modernize how cities approve new projects. But it's not just about building more, it's about building smarter. Arizona's water crisis has been used as an excuse to block growth. Yet the real solution is better infrastructure, not endless moratoriums. Investments in water recycling, desalination technology, and efficient irrigation could unlock growth without depleting the desert. Developers, engineers, and environmental experts need to work together instead of fighting across press conferences. The housing crisis is not just an economic issue anymore, it's an existential one. If Arizona can't balance growth and sustainability, it risks losing both. Financial solutions have to evolve too. Programs that only help low-income buyers leave the middle class stranded. Teachers, nurses, firefighters, they're not poor, but they're not rich either. They're the backbone of the state, and they're getting squeezed out. Expanding down payment assistance programs, lowering closing costs, and offering state-backed mortgage guarantees for moderate-income families could make a real difference. It's about giving regular people a fair shot again, not just those who already have money. The governor, for all her missteps, still has a chance to turn this around, if she's willing to take bold steps. Arizona doesn't need more empty promises or performative outrage. It needs results. That means cutting through red tape, unfreezing stalled projects, and reassuring developers that the state is open for business. Responsibly this time. It also means facing voters directly, not with carefully worded press statements, but with action plans and timelines. People don't want sympathy, they want solutions. What's tragic is that Arizona's potential hasn't disappeared. It's just buried under the debris of bad decisions. The weather, the economy, the community, they're still here, waiting for leadership to match their resilience. If the state can move past the panic and politics and focus on rebuilding both homes and hope, the dream doesn't have to die. Maybe this crash will be remembered as the moment Arizona stopped pretending everything was fine and finally started fighting for its future. Because in the end, redemption isn't about erasing mistakes. It's about proving you can rise from them. And Arizona, for all its cracks and chaos, has always been a place that knows how to rise again. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.